What's good, everybody? It's the Clown with Cab Show. UFC 300 was iconic. It was the best card I've ever seen. Fight after fight. All 13 fights were great. There might have been one boring fight, which was the Aljamain Sterling fight, but overall, it was a banger. Let me start off with the best fight overall was the Max Holloway versus Justin Gaethje. I seen this coming. This really should have been the main event. This should have been the main event, and I understand it wasn't for an actual title, but it was for the BMF belt, and it was awesome. We saw what Max Holloway, what a game plan he came up with against Dustin Gaethje. It was just a pinpoint accuracy, and it really just makes sense. And a lot of people were saying, no, Justin Gaethje's going to knock this dude out. He just has way more power than Max Holloway, but really Max was a lot quicker and a lot more better timing when he threw his punches, and that was the difference. It really was. In the first round, I saw really some holes in Gaethje's game where I was just like, oh my gosh, he's already breathing through the nose, can barely, breathe. He can't even breathe through the nose, so he's breathing through his mouth the whole fight, really. Ever since after the first round, it was not good for Gaethje. Yes, Gaethje had a good third or fourth round, but come that fifth round, it was the most iconic moment I've ever seen in the UFC octagon where Holloway pointed at Gaethje like, hey, let's bang here. The last 10 seconds, he put it all on the line, and that's risky for Max Holloway. Max Holloway easily could have said, you know what, I'm just going to circle around the octagon and win because I clearly won at least 3 rounds decisively, maybe even 4. I think Max Holloway really won every single round. Maybe the third or fourth round was super close, but when Max Holloway pointed in the middle of the center, he's done it before in many of his fights. It was in all. And then they just threw crazy shots, and then we saw Max Holloway, the same right hand that connected on Zombie, that knocked Zombie out, ended up knocking Gaethje out with 1 second left to go in the last round. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen. It was nuts. It literally, Max Holloway said, let's bang it out here. People want to say, Gaethje's throwing these crazy hands, which he was, but he was missing a lot of those shots. And it added up. Gaethje was, sticking to a good game plan with the leg kicks, but overall, when it came to the boxing aspect, it wasn't it. I thought Gaethje in the third and fourth and fifth round, he should have shot for the takedown. And I understand it's for the BMF belt. You're getting extra $300K. Shout to Max Holloway. He cashed in over 600 bands last night. Fight of the night, performance of the night. It was all Max Holloway. It really was. But when he pointed there with 10 seconds to go, he said, let's bang it out here. He hit him with the overhand right, knocked Gaethje cold out, dude. Everybody goes crazy. It was insane, dude. This is what, legends are made of. Max Holloway, what he's accomplished in the UFC, a little bit more than what Gaethje's accomplished, okay? We have to understand, Max Holloway is a former champion here. He called out Topuria after the fight. We saw Topuria ringside right there, and he was he was in awe. He was shook up. He froze up. He literally was shitting in his pants like he don't want any part of Max Holloway. They don't. Max Holloway's a different breed, cut from a different cloth. He's a gladiator, dude. He doesn't care about these weight divisions. Nowadays, everybody's like, hey, what weight division are you? 45, 55, 70? Max Holloway doesn't care. He said, I will show up and fight Francis Ngannou tomorrow if they sign the deal. He doesn't care about weight. True gladiators, they don't walk around with scales. They don't. Max Holloway is that true G, dude. And a lot of people writing him off. And I even told a lot of my homies, I still think Max Holloway, if it's a technical fight, the first 3 rounds, which it really was, I thought Max Holloway's going to win this fight. He's just a better timing puncher. That's what it comes down to. Better timing, better precision, better accuracy than Gaethje. Yes, Gaethje has power. He's got the crazy leg kicks. We saw, Max Holloway, I think in the third or fourth round, he fell to one of Gaethje's shots. And really that set the tone there. But Max Holloway got right back to his feet and composed and had a great game plan. You could tell the coaches were ready for Gaethje. You could tell. You could tell when Gaethje was going to wind up and throw these crazy overhand rights, stuff like that. But Max Holloway had it, dude. He won every single round. In that fifth round with 10 seconds to go was the most iconic moment in UFC history, dude. Out of all the UFC fights, I've been watching UFC since early Anderson Silva days, dude. That was back in 2006, 7 time? That was forever ago. That's when I started to fall in love with the UFC. Chuck Liddell days, Rampage days. Those were the days, right? Coming up, Mark Coleman put the BMF belt on Max Holloway. Shout out to Mark Coleman. Saved his parents from a burning house. A legend, dude. He was the, godfather of the ground and pound. hands like big as my head, dude. So shout out to Mark Coleman, but Max Holloway, he deserves this bonus. He deserves really whatever he wants to do next. He can fight Poirier for the belt, I believe, at 145. He could even go and get a rematch with Conor McGregor. And speaking of McGregor, he's fighting at UFC 303 against Michael Chandler in June. I can't wait for that matchup. And they even hit it like, hey, Max fought, he fought McGregor back in 2013-14 time, relatively before anybody knew who Max Holloway or Conor McGregor was. Like, this was way before all this, accolades coming in. This was at the beginning of their careers. So right now, if Max Holloway does fight McGregor here in the next year, I honestly, I'm kind of like worried about McGregor. McGregor's in the Roadhouse. He's doing Hollywood. He's so rich right now, doesn't need money anymore. Like, what's he fighting for? Legacy? He's not fighting to feed his family anymore. That's what I'm saying. So there's differences there, right? Max Holloway, it's just he's in his prime still. Like, what I saw last night from Max Holloway was just top tier, A+, ready to go, just looking crisp, dude. Everything he did, Max Holloway was calculated, and he knew exactly what he was going to do, except the last 10 seconds where he said, hey, right in the middle of the ring, let's go right here, Gaethje, let's just throw, and really that's a risk for Max Holloway. You won the fight already. You're winning decisively. And really, Gaethje could have got one lucky right-handed and knocked Max Holloway out, but it was vice versa. Max Holloway hit him with that right, and Gaethje, man, he just, ever since that bloody nose in the first round, I was really worried about Gaethje. That's when I knew this fight was turning in Max Holloway's favor 100%. When you have a fighter that's bleeding through the nose, and your coach is saying, don't spit it out because it's going to continue to bleed and bleed. You're breathing through your mouth the whole fight, dude. Your jaw's open, so when you get hit, it's just easier target to drop. Just so many factors including that. But Max Holloway, dude, what a dog. What a dog. He was plus 140 coming into this fight, which is insane to me. In one of my parlays, I had Max Holloway winning. This was such a hard fight, though, before it happened, right? I thought this was a 50-50 fight. A lot of people did as well. But Max Holloway, Chael Sonnen, shout out to Chael Sonnen, UFC Hall of Famer, inducted in 2024. He picked Max Holloway in this fight. And I said, why did Chael Sonnen pick Max Holloway? And it made sense. His timing, his accuracy, everything that Max Holloway does leading up into this fight, it made sense that he was going to pick apart Gaethje. Gaethje's only hope was his crazy overhand rights and lefts, dude, throwing crazy bombs. And Max Holloway was smarter than that, dude. Max Holloway is the best boxer in the UFC. We know this. So I think the next step for Max Holloway is either fight Topuria, and he looked scared. He looked shook up. He didn't know what to do. Or fight McGregor. I would love to see that matchup, right? That would be great business for the UFC. It'd be great business for McGregor and Max Holloway. I think Max Holloway would love a rematch with McGregor right now. I think he would touch up McGregor, just what I've been seeing right now. That would be a BMF fight. I think down the line, McGregor, Holloway, that makes sense to me. What's next for Gaethje? I obviously lose in here. I would say for Gaethje, take some time off here. This was a huge fight. Coming before this, he knocked out Poirier. But overall, it's just like, I think when fighters get knocked out, you need at least 5 months. 5 months to recover. You need a full training camp. You need a lot of different things to help you out, recover from that knockout. So I think Gaethje, we don't need to see Gaethje till really the winter time. Around November, December time. That's when we need to see Gaethje back. But Max Holloway, so many options here. You could go to Poirier. You could fight the winner of Islam Poirier. You could fight the winner of Michael Chandler, Conor McGregor. And if I think I'm Max right here, I want that fight, right? If you want the big money fights, you want McGregor. You want a rematch. They fought already. I think that makes sense. So I think Max Holloway, so many options here. Max Holloway has like 3 or 4 different options he can choose. So it's all on Max Holloway. And I think Dana White's going to give Max Holloway the leverage. He's a legend, dude. Future Hall of Famer. What a time, dude. Everybody really counted Max Holloway out when it comes to the power. Everybody said he's not going to knock Gaethje out. That's not going to happen. And that's what happened with 1 second left to go in the fight. So it took, 24 minutes and 59 seconds for Holloway to knock Gaethje out. But he did it. When everybody said he would not do it, he did it, dude. So shout out to Max Holloway. I love him. He's got the gladiator spirit. He's got the winning spirit. So does Gaethje. Both are legends, but I think Gaethje needs some time off. Max Holloway, a freaking legend, dude. Take off. The door is wide open for Max Holloway. And then we got the main event, Alex Pereira versus Jamal Hill. I told you guys, I told a lot of my homies, hey, Pereira's the real deal. He's going to knock Jamal Hill out, and I bet money on it, and it hit. That's exactly what happened. It was so crazy that freaking, just his look, dude. If you look at Alex Pereira, his walkouts just leading up to the fight, just staring at his eyes, dude. You see the killer in him, dude. He's born that way. He has the fighting spirit, dude. He has that tribal spirit in him, dude. I'm telling you, like, he is a true killer. He's got the bow and arrow walkout. Dude, he's just a killer, dude. And what was more G about this fight is Herb Dean, he was going to, like, pause the fight for a second because Jamal Hill threw a groin kick to Pereira, hit him in the cup. Pereira said, no, Herb Dean, back up. I don't want this to, I want to close the distance. He backs him up. 3 seconds later, he throws a left, and then boom, he's knocked out. Just like that. One punch, Jamal Hill's eyes are in the back of his head, dude. He's gone, knocked out, and that's it. For Jamal Hill, I knew this was against all odds, coming off an Achilles tear. And a lot of people are like, oh, how's that have to do within a fight? Like, if you're kicking your leg, it's not your Achilles. Come on, dude. You're just lateral movements are not the same. Coming off an Achilles tear. Like, when you're fighting a world champion like Alex Pereira, like, that is insane. But shout out to Jamal Hill taking chances in life. Even though he came up short, dude, he got a bag. He got some big money in this fight. But I just knew Alex Pereira is the real deal. Now he wants to go up to heavyweight, which is insane. Dana White said, I think he needs to stay at light heavyweight right now. I would love to see Pereira versus Tom Aspinall. I really would. Even though people are saying Aspinall will take him down, this and that. But at the end of the day, man, who's looking at Pereira right now and raising their hand and saying, I want Pereira? I don't see anybody in the crowd. Now, a lot of the MMA experts are like, oh, where's John Jones at? Come on, pump the brakes here. We're talking John Jones to go here. If John Jones ever matched up against Pereira, John Jones is going to have that game plan where I'm going to shoot for takedowns and I'm going to out-wrestle this guy. We're talking John Jones here, dude. He's great at every aspect of fighting, whereas Pereira's weakness is his ground. So, like, obviously, John Jones would shoot for takedowns and take Pereira down and ground and pound. So that fight's not going to happen. The Aspinall fight could really happen. Why not? I mean, Alex Pereira, he probably came into this fight about 235. Like, realistically, 235, he came in about 230, gained about 25 pounds overnight, which is crazy, dude. Like, Alex Pereira is the real deal. Like, people who doubt him, it's silly, man. He's got stone hands. Literally, one left or the right hook can put any man to sleep. We saw what he did to retard Sean Strickland, made him look even more retarded. Like, dude, just out there. He's just cold-blooded, dude. He really is. But shout out to Jamal Hill taking chances. But I knew this fight was going to end. I knew it was going to be a first-round knockout, and I knew it was going to be Alex Pereira. He's just got the stone hands. He's just locked in, dialed in, dude. He's like a lion looking at his prey, just really, like, lurking on his prey. Then he pounces on it, just like he did. Just like he said, Herb Dean, let me cook. Let me get this real quick. Let me get the knockout. Let me throw the left hook. Boom, dropped like a bag of ice. That's it. Over, lights out. Alex Pereira, man, the future's bright for him. He could do anything right now, right? He could go back down to 185, which I don't think so. I think he's either going to stay at light heavyweight at 205 or go up to heavyweight. He wants to take chances. Why not? If you're Alex Pereira and you're Dana White, Hunter Campbell, make it happen. Why not? Like, why not, dude? Alex Pereira literally been running through the division, and really in 3 years, 3 short years, Alex Pereira's been champion in different weight classes. We're talking 185 and 205 champion. So that's crazy, dude. In 3 years. In 3 years. Shout out to Alex Pereira. He's the real deal. The door's wide open. He has so many opportunities, what he can do, whatever the case may be. But Alex Pereira is a true killer. If people want to talk crap about him, it's just, I think Hill messed up when he played Buddy Buddy. Then he wanted to talk crap the next day. That's where he messed up. At the end of the day, he was not winning this fight. He just wasn't. We're talking Alex Pereira here. Stone hands. One left or the right hook will put any man to sleep. I don't care if you're heavyweight or lightweight. You're going to sleep. You're going to sleep. So shout out to Alex Pereira, another big win. And then we got Zhang Wei Li versus Yan. What a game plan, Zhang Wei Li. I think it was the first round. It looked like she had a rear naked choke, and really the chick was out. Yan was out, and she was saved by the bell. She got up. You could tell she was kind of dazed in a way. Her legs went limp. It was just like, oh my gosh. Zhang Wei Li pushed her off like, yeah, dude, she's out. But she battled back. She got out of certain submissions. In the third round, I think the third round, Yan, it was her best fight. She dropped Zhang Wei Li twice in one round. and it was not looking good for Zhang Weili. You know, coming into that fourth round, Zhang Weili had a great fourth round. She took her down, ground and pound, held her down all that whole round in the fourth round, and then the fifth round she dominated her again with the takedowns. But Zhang Weili, she had the second win. You know, in that third round, it looked like Zhang Weili might have got knocked out. Really, though, ever since Yan survived the first two rounds, it looked like, you know, Yan caught that second air, and Zhang Weili was slowing way down. And then the championship rounds, that's when Zhang Weili said, hey, I'm the champion here. I'm going to take over this fight. This was a great fight. It really was. This was, you know, right after the Max Holloway fight. This was crazy, too. But Zhang Weili, that's why I picked her. She's the champion. I've seen her fight many fights, and she can pick up Shaq. If you could pick up Shaquille O'Neal, former Hall of Famer in basketball, dude. Like, dude, he's huge. He's freaking so big. Over 7 foot. Probably every bit of 350. I would say 350, maybe even 400 nowadays with Shaq in his retirement right now. But I think Zhang Weili, she just had a great game plan. And her coaches said that. Her coaches told her in the corner, stop throwing low leg kicks because she counters it. And she did it a couple times. She got dropped the second time doing it. She finally listened to her coaches. Smart coaches in Zhang Weili's corner to say, hey, don't throw those low leg kicks because she's going to counter and she's going to go over the top on you. And that's what she did in the third round. So she corrected her mistakes, took her down in the fourth and fifth round, retained the belt. So shout to Zhang Weili. The door's wide open for her. Yan, she's still in the top 5 in my opinion. You know, what she had to go through in the first round to get out of that, a lot of people would have tapped there, dude. She was out, dude. She was out. She got saved by the bell. It was like something I've never seen before. I was like, what? How they let this fight go? She literally got up, wobbled after the first round, but she battled back like a champion. I think Yan eventually will be champion. What I saw from that fight last night, I saw the heart of a champion, a heart of never giving up. Even though she came up short, she fought like a freaking champion. So shout to Yan, shout to Zhang Weili. What a fight it was overall. And then Bo Nickel. Everybody's mad at Bo Nickel. Bo Nickel versus Cody Brandage. Look, he won in the second round. It wasn't the best Bo Nickel fight I've seen on foot. It looked like Bo Nickel, the first 20 seconds, it was kind of uncomfortable for him. You know, I think over time, Bo Nickel needs to develop better stand-up game. If he wants to go against Chimaev, he's got to do better stand-up. You just have to. If you want to become champion in the UFC, you have to be good in all departments, not just elite wrestling. You need good stand-up. So I think Bo understands that, hey, I need to get more comfortable on my feet. Even though at UFC 290, he slept, dude. But overall, after watching this fight, it was like, man, it was kind of uncomfortableness. But at the end of the day, he dominated him. You know, took Cody down in the first round, ground and pound him. Second round, took him down and submitted him in submission, you know, and he won. And everybody's booing Bo Nickel, you know, and I understand. You know, he's 6 fights in the UFC, 6-0. You know, he fought a guy that had 15 fights in the UFC already, made him look like a JV fighter. You know, that's the Bo Nickel. We're talking Bo Nickel here. I'm on the Bo Nickel hype train. I know a lot of people aren't. A lot of people are saying, you know, he's overhyped, this and that. But I just think overall what I've seen from Bo Nickel is eliteness. It's saying he's going to take you down. We're talking about a guy who's been wrestling his whole life. We're talking about Bo Nickel, a Khabib 2.0 right here. Like, he will take anybody down. It's just second nature to him. Like, I'm telling you, his shoots for his takedowns, even Cody was ready for it. He defended it a couple times, but it just wasn't enough. He still took him down and choked him out. So I think Bo Nickel eventually, he's going to fight a top 15 guy, you know, and then a couple of years, I would say a year or two, give him Chimaev. You know what I'm saying? He's been calling out Chimaev. He's saying, I want Chimaev. Chimaev even commented on Twitter and saying, hey, this is trash wrestling, something like that. But at the end of the day, Bo Nickel, he said it best. Chimaev's winning by decisions. I'm winning by, you know, finishing my opponent by submission or knockouts. Chimaev's gassing out later in the rounds. I'm not. So, like, I think overall, Bo Nickel saying he's closing the distance on Chimaev. I can't wait. That fight's going to happen. Dana White knows it. Every UFC fan who's a hardcore MMA fan wants to see Bo Nickel versus Chimaev. That's what we want to see, dude. I want to see Bo Nickel ragdoll Chimaev, or vice versa. You know, it might be a reality check for Bo Nickel, but I'm on the Bo Nickel train. I think Bo Nickel is legit. I think he's the real deal. I do think he needs to get better on the stand-up game. And a lot of people are like, we don't know if he has a chin. They said that about John Jones, even though John Jones is the GOAT. Yes, I understand. He's going to get tested eventually. And we're going to see if Bo Nickel does have a chin. I think overall he needs his better stand-up game. He needs to work on it. He needs to get more comfortable. I saw a little uncomfortableness, especially the start of the second round. It was just like he was stepping back. making weird moves. It was kind of unorthodox in a way for when he was on his feet. It looked like Bo Nickel was just like, I don't want to get in a brawl here. That's why he kept shooting for takedowns, and he finally got it with the choke. But I think overall, Bo Nickel's the real deal. Any haters, they're going to become lovers of Bo Nickel eventually because he is the real deal. I'm telling you right now. And then Arman wins by decision over Charles Oliveira. This was the most heartbreaking loss. I picked Charles Oliveira. I had him in a couple of my parlays, and it didn't work out. You know, Charles Oliveira did not have a good game plan. It looked like Charles Oliveira was just kind of sluggish in a way. He just, like, wasn't prepared. You know, Arman kept shooting for takedowns. He was 2 for 4 for takedowns, 75 total strikes. Even though I do think, you know, Charles might have won the first round, and then obviously the third round with about a minute to go, Charles reverses his ground and then puts him in a choke. Looked like he was going to choke him out. Charles is over here with his tongue out and everything. I just think overall Charles did just not look top tier. He didn't, especially on a stand-up. He just kind of looked unorthodox in a way. He was just slow. I think everything got to Charles, UFC 300, all the energy in the building. I think it kind of just got to him in a way. It was just like one of them fights where it's like, that's not the Charles Oliveira that I know. Like the Charles Oliveira that I know would have sparked this dude, would have put him out. You know, in that first round, he had a guillotine, looked like he was going to do it. All Charles had to do was roll on his back to secure it. And he did it, dude. And he just stood there. And then Arman finally got out of it. But if he just rolled on his back on the guillotine, he would have definitely tapped that dude out. In my parlay, all my parlays would have definitely cashed out with Charles Oliveira. I had him with the upset. You know, because all the, you know, DraftKings, freaking FanDuel, all them, they love to throw plus money on Charles Oliveira. I don't know why. The past, like, 4 or 5 fights have always been underdogs for Charles Oliveira. And a lot of the times, Charles Oliveira wins those fights. And I thought he'd win this fight, but Arman, he threw a crazy scissor kick. I have not seen that in a long time, which landed on Charles Oliveira. And that was really, that was a momentum shift, too. I think that was later in the second round. But, you know, Arman, what a game plan. You know, what a game plan for Charles Oliveira. Back to the basics, really. I mean, he's later in his career right now. Who knows what's going to happen there? But Arman, what a game plan. Took him down, 2 for 4 for takedowns. Controlled this fight. He controlled, had more ground control. He was just overall, I just think Charles Oliveira needed a better game plan and better takedown defense. That was the difference there. Take off Arman. And then we had Yuri. Yuri, what a TKO finish in the second round over Rakic. I think looking at this fight, it looked like Yuri was going to get knocked out, especially in the first round. It looked like the start of the Alex Pereira versus Yuri fight where Pereira was just throwing crazy leg kicks at Yuri, and Yuri was just standing there taking them. Just like in this fight. In the first round, Yuri was just banging his leg up, and Yuri did not look really good, dude. He just looked unorthodox. His hands were down. He was getting pieced up. Second round, he changed it around. Hit him with a couple rights. He ended up knocking dude out in the second round. It was crazy, dude, and I saw that coming. Yuri was timing this out the whole fight. He said if he continues to throw and continues to go on the offense, he's going to hit him with a couple counters, couple right overhand hooks, and then boom, he just knocks him to the ground and pounds him, hits him from the top. The dude's on the ground, just cuddling up. It was over. The fight is over. So shout to Yuri. This was a good fight. I picked Yuri to win. I didn't pick it to win by knockout, but I picked it to win. I thought this would go 3 rounds by decision, but it didn't. You know, after the first round, I said, oh, wow, Yuri's going to have to knock this dude out or else he's going to lose because he's not going to have a leg in the third round coming in, dude. Like, banging up his front leg, just looked all red. He's a true Viking, but shout to Yuri. Getting the job done, knocking this dude out clean and cold. And then we had Kayla Harrison versus Holly Holm. Shout out to Kayla Harrison. What a game plan. I picked Kayla Harrison. Holly Holm, what a UFC career she's had. Future Hall of Famer, no doubt about it. But Kayla Harrison, the more hungry fighter, the younger fighter, and she's a wrestler. And she looked like she came into this fight, like leading up, walking out. She looked like every bit of 150. I mean, her arms, her freaking shoulders, her traps were huge, dude. If she's not on roids, I don't know. Looks like the female Michael Chandler, like straight up, dude, straight ripped. Ripped from head to toe. Like, you know, she's in the gym every day, wrestling, lifting weights, everything. So, and that's what was the game plan. What was crazy, the first minute, Holly Holm actually reversed her and got on top of Kayla Harrison. And I was like, no, Holly, get back up. Get back to your feet. Then eventually Harrison got on top and then ground and pound, threw some crazy elbows, ended up winning by rear naked choke in the second round. And Kayla Harrison, a heavy favorite, it made sense here. You know, the younger fighter, wrestler, Holly Holm, towards the end of her career. I think Holly Holm, she might retire soon. Who knows? I think it's towards the end of it, though. I really do. I mean, prime Holly Holm would have definitely stood her ground, moved a lot more, and threw crazy leg kicks. That's the young, hungry Holly Holm there. That's the beating Ronda Rousey Holly Holm. So, looking at that fight was different. But overall, Kayla Harrison, man, she says she's going to be UFC champion by the end of the year. Who knows what's going to happen? Is Amanda Nunes going to come back and fight her? I hope so. That'd be great. We know Amanda Nunes is the greatest female fighter of all time in the UFC. No doubt about it. Now, Kayla Harrison, she's on a mission right now. And I don't see any woman right now besides Amanda Nunes when she's retired. Nobody can touch Kayla Harrison. I don't think it's going to happen. I just don't. She's been ground and pound, using crazy elbows. The female Mike Chandler here. So shout out to Kayla Harrison on a huge win. And then we had Diego Lopez defeating Yosef by TKO in the first round. I looked at Diego Lopez and I was like, oh man, this dude's going to get knocked out. Haven't really seen much about him. I just thought he was kind of feminine, playing with his hair. He looked kind of like just real feminine. Didn't look like a fighter at all, but I'm telling you what, he's a dog. He's a dog. First round knockout. He hit him with a couple shots early. I think it was a right he hit him with and just dropped the dude. Dude was just trying to survive. He's just ground and pound him. It's over with. And this dude, he's legit. I don't know what he's fighting at, like 145, 150, 155, somewhere around there. But, man, Diego Lopez, dude, this dude is nice. He's sick, man. He has good stand-up, just good agility, and just great on his feet. I mean, I underestimate him. Just looking at him eye test-wise, I'm like, oh, man, this dude ain't it. But, looks are deceiving. Really are. They are deceiving as heck. I'm telling you, shout to Diego getting a huge win on UFC 300. And then we have Jalen Turner. What is he doing? This was the craziest, stupidest fight I've ever seen. And then we had Brent Tono. I don't even know how to pronounce dude's name, from overseas somewhere. Anyway, he ends up TKOing Jalen Turner in the second round. But before this happened, late in the first round with about a minute to go, Jalen Turner starts to get momentum here. Starts to land shots, gets up off of a takedown. And then what does Jalen Turner do? Such great IQ, right? He drops him with like 15 seconds to go in the round. Jalen Turner turns the herd team, puts his hands up and says, yeah, I won and shit, dude. No, dude. He's just dazed right now. You literally gave him life. You literally gave him the fight in that moment. I said, what is Jalen Turner doing? This is one of the biggest mistakes I've ever seen in a fight. He turned and he thought he knocked him out, obviously. But it's like, come on, dude. Even though you dropped him, you go on top of him and ground and pound. There's only like 10 seconds to go in the first round. You literally could have stole this round by knockout and won the fight. You're literally losing this fight. He was on the ground for like 2 or 3 minutes. And I'm like, Jalen Turner, what are you doing? This is not smart. This is not good IQ. He just turned around. I'm like, what are you doing? I'm watching it live thinking, what is he doing? Is this real life? Is Jalen Turner for real here? He could have easily landed 1 or 2 more shots. It's lights out, over with. But no, Jalen Turner just does the dumbest thing I've ever seen, like a Nate Diaz moment, where it's just like, bro, you cannot do this. And then the second round, he gets taken down, and he's done by TKO. And that's it, dude. It was just one of the things where it's like, why would you celebrate too early? This is a learning curve for Jalen Turner. This was a fight where Jalen Turner should have won. You had it. You had it in the bag. All you had to do was zip the seal, but you left the seal open, dude. That's what Jalen Turner did. It was a really mistake, man. And Jalen Turner's not a rookie, but it really was a rookie mistake. I'm looking at it. I'm like, dude, what are you on earth, dude? Are you serious here? This is a fight. I don't care if you drop your opponent or not. If you drop your opponent, if I'm your coach, I'm telling you to jump on him, pounce on him. We saw in the Alex Pereira, the main fight, what did Pereira do when he dropped Hill with the left hook? He got on top of him and grounded and pounded him. He didn't look at Herb Dean and point his hands up. Come on. Jalen Turner, I'm disappointed in you, bro. I really am. Man, it's a learning curve for sure, man. I cannot believe it, dude. I was so sick to my stomach, dude. I really was. And then we have Jessica Andrade beating Rodriguez in a really split decision. And I thought Rodriguez really could have took this fight if she would have won the last 2 minutes. And that's what it came down to. This was such a tricky fight. It was 28-29, 29-28, then 29-28. It was super close. And really, Rodriguez had the better combinations, had the better punches, but Jessica was more strong. Her shots hit a lot harder, and she had a little bit more control. And I think that's really what won her the fight, was the control aspect of this fight. But Rodriguez, man, on her feet, if she just would have stayed up, and I think if she didn't lose the last minute of round 1, in round 3, Rodriguez would be would won this fight and become champion eventually. But Jessica, she's been battling. I saw her beat Mackenzie Dern. That's what made me pick Jessica here. She barely won by split decision, but her power was the difference here. It really was. And I thought Rodriguez could have utilized her distance and her reach just a little bit more. You know, from some of the shots, she got up on the cage, didn't really move from the cage. If you're a fighter and your guy has, or your woman or man has more power than you, you don't want to go on the cage. Like, you want to go away from the cage, escape from the cage, and get in the middle of the octagon. Have some room and space to work with. But, you know, Rodriguez just, I thought that's where she lost the fight, was just understanding the distance part of the octagon. That's a simple, you know, fix. So I think Rodriguez is going to be back. But shout out to Jessica Andre, man. She had a great game plan, and it worked. She barely won, but a win is a win in the UFC. I can't wait to see what's next for Jessica. And then we got Bobby Green versus Jim Miller. Jim Miller, Hall of Famer, man, a legend in UFC 100, 200, now 300, but he got dominated. Shout out to Bobby Green. It was all Bobby Green here. Bobby Green literally fights with his hands down. You know, it just goes crazy. Shout out to Bobby Green. A lot of people even say he was like a tweaker from, like, California. Looked like a tweaker from California, right? The guy that's on drugs, just over there, just, you know, doing crazy stuff out in the streets when nobody's looking. Bobby Green does the same thing. Does crazy stuff before he gets in the octagon, and he fights with his hands down and throws crazy overhand rights, throws crazy punches, and Jim Miller was bloodied up. I mean, Jim Miller to last that long was great. You know, but I think Jim Miller, he's 44, dude. He's done. He's done in the UFC. I think he's going to retire. He should retire, dude. He really should. But Bobby Green, he called out Paddy Pimblett after the fight, and I think that'd be great. I want to see Bobby Green versus Paddy Pimblett, dude. I really do. I think that'd be a great fight. Bobby Green fights with his hands down, so it's going to be harder for Paddy to take Bobby Green down. So, like, I think that fight's going to be a stand-up banger. And I'm telling you, Bobby Green, man, he's on a mission right now. And I think the UFC and Dana White, what we saw from Bobby Green at UFC 300 over Jim Miller, give him the Paddy fight. Paddy's young. We always try to build up these young fighters. And I know, like Bo Nickel, but Bo Nickel's way different than Paddy, okay? Like, in a different, completely hemisphere than Paddy Pimblett. So I think Paddy versus Bobby Green this summer would do banger numbers. I do. I think it'd be great. And I think, you know, Paddy's going to get humbled eventually. I mean, Paddy was struggling against Tony Ferguson, dude, who literally has CTE. Like, who literally is on his last leg, dude, who literally should have retired 2 years ago. So, like, I want to see Bobby Green piece Paddy up. I really do. That'd be iconic. And then we had the first fight on the prelims. Davison Figueiredo beats Cody Garbrandt. I picked Cody with the upset. I thought Cody was going to knock him out. Kind of had a good game plan in the first round. Second round, got taken down, got choked by a rear naked choke in the second round, and Cody, he looked upset about it. Obviously losing, you know, in a big pay-per-view event, but I just think Cody, man, sometimes I don't understand his fight IQ. I think a lot of the times Cody, even in his past fights, he fights a lot with ego. And that could get to you. That could bite you in the butt at the end of the day. If you're fighting with ego and just feeding into the crowd, sometimes it's going to backfire. And I think it backfired in this fight. But Davison Figueiredo, former champion, you know, both are former champions, but I think Figueiredo just had a great game plan. He said, I'm going to get him down eventually, and I'm going to submit this guy. You know, Figueiredo's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu expert. So if you're Cody Garbrandt, I'm saying, hey, I'm not letting this fight go to the mat. Ain't no way in heck, dude. I don't want this problems. I don't want those problems. I want to stand up and bang, but that's not what happened. But, I mean, dude, shout out to Davison Figueiredo. He was a former champion for a reason, and I think he's going to be champion again after watching him, seeing what I saw last time. But UFC 300 did not disappoint. The best fight on this card by a long shot was Max Holloway, Justin Gaethje. And I even said that should have been the main fight. That should have been the last fight on this card. It was a true banger. Max Holloway, the true gladiator warrior, pointed to the middle of the ring. Who does that? Who points in the middle of the octagon against Justin Gaethje, a dog like Gaethje is, and said, all right, let's go, Gaethje. I understand I'm up on you 4 rounds to nothing. You could knock me out in literally 10 seconds here being dumb. But at the end of the day, this is for legacy here. Points to the ring, said, let's go. They're throwing crazy shots. Max hit him with the overhand right. Boom. Drops Gaethje with 1 second left, dude. Drops him like a bag of ice. Just boom. In that moment, everything was like in slow motion, bro. Even watching it live, I was like, oh my gosh. And even Max Holloway, I bet he would, down the line, I bet he will even say everything was in slow motion. Even though they're going crazy, man, it was just like a movie. You could even script a movie better than what happened last night, UFC 300. I mean, it was the greatest card I've ever seen. It was better than the McGregor-Khabib fight at UFC 229, just because there were so many, greater fighters on this card than UFC 229. But looking at this, man, it was like, wow. That's all I have to say about it is wow, dude. I'm in shock. I'm telling you, Max Holloway, the door's wide open. He can fight Topuria. I think he'd run through him. Topuria looked shook. He did not want it, dude. In the cameras and stuff after the fight, yeah, you could say what you want. But at the end of the day, Max Holloway looked light years ahead of Topuria. So I think he could go after him. And like I said, I think, one day Max Holloway's going to get that rematch with Conor McGregor. Why not? Why not? Why not, dude? I want to see it. I think UFC fans want to see it. That'd be a BMF title fight. I want to see that fight, man. Shout out to Max Holloway. What a time. And I told you guys, go Alex Pereira. He's the real deal. Straight from the freaking jungle. I'm telling you right now. Alex Pereira is the dog. UFC 300 was the best card ever. It's the Clown with Cab show. Let's go!